Hello everyone! Today we released Harbinger Khadgar. Link is in the description down below, go check it out. And naturally, I want to sit down and talk a little bit about it. Before we begin though, be warned, there are going to be spoilers for Legion in this video. If you don't want any spoilers, then please turn off the video right now. For those that are sticking around, let's begin, shall we? In this episode, we see Khadgar fly to Kharazan in a desperate attempt to find knowledge, something that will help us fight against the Legion. He rudely slams the door on his griffin, goes inside, and there he finds the spirit of Medivh, his former mentor and guardian of Azeroth. They have a little chat. Medivh tells him that Khadgar does not need knowledge, he needs a weapon. He has to take the next step towards his destiny and become a guardian himself, something that Khadgar had longed for every single day. He's smart enough to know to refuse this power, which pisses off the image of Medivh, which in reality was actually a Dreadlord trying to trick the Archmage. No tricks will work on Khadgar as he blasts the Dreadlord out of the tower, and the video ends with him flying away on his griffin, not gaining the knowledge that he was searching for, but gaining a reminder that no single person, not even a guardian, can stand against the Legion alone. The world has to be united against the threat of the Legion. Now, as much as I love this episode, because I really enjoyed it, the voice acting was on point, it looks phenomenal, the music, it was all there. There are some things with the lore that raise a few questions, so it's time to be a little bit nitpicky and break this episode down. On Twitter, I asked you guys and girls to send in any questions or comments about this so that I know what to focus on. So first up, we have Khadgar, who goes into Kharazan, and he encounters the spirit of Medivh.
My apprentice returns. It is good to see you again, Khadgar.
Medivh? How?
My spirit is bound to this tower.
Yes, of course. Medivh, there is so much I need.
You look terrible, old friend.
Now that's just rude to say, Medivh. I mean, I know that they gave him a new model and everything, but he looks better than you left him. Now the history behind this is huge. I have an hour-long video going into full details if you want to know everything. But in short, the Guardian was created to keep the world safe, mainly from threats coming from the Burning Legion. In the past, they had a group of people, channeled their power into one, but they realized that they were kind of vulnerable while doing that, so instead they decided to pool their power into one single being. This being they called the Guardian, and that person would use their power to keep the world safe. This power was then transferred from Guardian to Guardian, and eventually they picked up the tradition of wielding a weapon. This weapon they called a Tish, and they passed it one on as well. Now Khadgar, he was sent to Kharazan to become Medivh's apprentice, and at the time, Medivh was the guardian of the world. Khadgar figured out that Medivh was corrupted by the dark titan Sargeras, and Sargeras, he's the leader of the Burning Legion, and his spirit was resting inside Medivh. This is the reason why Medivh made contact with Gul'dan, and he led the orcs into Azeroth, because he wasn't doing that voluntarily, he was under the control of Sargeras. Upon discovering this, Khadgar, Enduin and Garona half-Orcan, they confronted the corrupted Guardian. Medivh turned Khadgar into an old man, Khadgar stabbed him, and then the spirit of Sargeras tried to manifest. Lothar quickly chopped off the head, and they left Kharazan behind to focus on the war against the Horde. Khadgar never stepped up to become the next Guardian. The war between the Horde and Alliance played out, the Horde lost, they were placed in internment camps. Thrall stepped up, formed a new Horde, which brings us to the events of Warcraft 3.
Son of Duratan.
There we see a prophet warning the world of the coming threat of the Legion, eventually revealing that he's Medivh himself. His mother Aedwin had used her magic to resurrect her son, and Medivh decided to use the time to not directly fight against the Legion himself. Instead, he showed the world that it no longer needed guardians by uniting them and have them do the fighting. They did indeed unite. Our command was defeated, and we were left with this.
The roots will heal in time, as will the entire world. The sacrifices have been made. Just as the orcs, humans, and night elves discarded their old hatreds and stood united against a common foe, so did nature herself rise up to banish the shadow forever. As for me, I came back to ensure that there would be a future, to teach the world that it no longer needed guardians. The hope for future generations has always resided in mortal hands. And now that my task is done, I will take my place amongst the legends of the past.
A beautiful ending to a beautiful story arc, and the line of taking his place amongst the legends of the past, it leaves it up for interpretation as to what exactly happened to him. I personally say that the magic used by Agewind to bring him back to life, it was not unlimited, so after his job was done, he simply returned to the grave, but you can give your own spin to it. That's probably why Khadgar is so easy to accept that Medivh's spirit is linked to the tower. Now, knowing this background, knowing the background of the Guardian, Khadgar, Agewind, Medivh, all of that, let's get back to the Harbinger episode.
You came seeking knowledge. What you need is a weapon.
I don't understand.
You defeated me when I was consumed by fell madness, but you never took the next step toward your destiny. It is time Azeroth had a guardian once again.
A guardian? After your failings, it was decided that none could resist the temptation of such power. No, we don't need a guardian, Medivh.
Notice how Medivh says that he was consumed by fell madness instead of the spirit of Sargeras. Now you could say this is the Dreadlord talking, so we can't believe him, but Khadgar agrees and then informs us that he decided that none could be trusted with the temptation of such power, implying that the powers of the Guardian, that they're somehow corrupted, or that they will corrupt an individual. From the lore so far, we know that Khadgar was aware of the internal struggle that his former mentor had to deal with. He knew about Sargeras being inside Medivh and what was going on, so I wonder why they now call it fell madness and why Khadgar is scared of becoming corrupted. It's possible that they cut out Sargeras to make it easier for the audience to understand, but the whole corruption bit, it seems like a repeat of the lore that they used for the Warcraft movie and not what actually happened with the in-game lore. For the Warcraft movie, they also didn't mention the name Sargeras, and Medivh seems to be corrupted by the use of fell magic. Right? It almost seems like they're trying to make these two universes come together, but it could also be to make it easier for the audience to understand. Either way, Khadgar, despite somehow having a tish, despite going around walking, talking, acting like the Guardian, he is not the official Guardian and refuses the power, stating that the world doesn't need a Guardian. A lot of you asked me if they ever explained how he obtained the tish, how that happened, and sadly they have not. The last person that we saw wielding this weapon was Medan, the son of Medivh and Corona half-Orcan. Yep, to make it a little bit more confusing, when Medivh was corrupted and controlled by Sargeras, he found the time to fight back, to regain control and fall in love, make a baby with Corona. This baby they named Medan, and within the comics he went through his own adventures until eventually they decided to empower him and make him the new Guardian. He got his hands on a tish, he got a power upgrade from his father, he got a council to empower him, he used all of these powers to kick the crap out of Cho'Gall, and then, at the end of the story, he gave the borrowed powers back to the council. Now, Medan has always been a bit of a problem in the lore because not a lot of people like his character, myself included, because it just screws over the storyline that they established with Medivh at the end of Warcraft 3. On top of that, he has never made an appearance in-game. He's only been briefly mentioned in one of the short stories, so the question is he actually part of the lore? The answer is, according to Blizzard, yes, he is. During a recent developer interview, they said that Medan is out adventuring in the universe. He's doing big, important things that will one day come to fruition. He just isn't around right now. Well, okay, maybe they just made a mistake during an interview, or maybe they changed their minds in the meantime. It's possible, but it would also create some conflict within the story. Aegwyn's death, for example, is connected to Medan. In Legion itself, we will be meeting up with Meryl Fellstorm and the Dreadlord Khafre, so there are definitely a couple of characters, a couple of storylines that are connected to Medan, and if they're going to cut out Medan, then they'll have to do some serious rewriting. So from this information, let's assume that Medan is indeed canon, let's assume that he is indeed part of the lore. There's one thing that I can't explain from this Harbinger episode. This is what they say.
After your failings, it was decided that none could resist the temptation of such power. No, we don't need a guardian, Medivh.
Alright, sounds cool enough, except Khadgar himself, he helped with creating a new council and turning Medan into a new guardian. He didn't personally leave Outland, but he was informed about the situation, and he then sent Dalinia Ravskar to assist him in his place. Perhaps old age is finally getting to the mage, perhaps Blizzard forgot about their own lore. I have no idea. So final questions that I got from Twitter to wrap up the video. When does this take place on the timeline? And it's pretty difficult to say. My first intuition was to place it before the moment that Khadgar flies away from Kharazan to warn Anduin Avarian about the return of the Legion. A problem with that is that at the end of the Harbinger episodes, we see him fly away on a griffin during daytime, so it doesn't seem to line up. Another possibility would be that he's just chilling at Kharazan for some reason. He senses that the Legion has returned, and he then goes off to warn Varian and Anduin. He goes back to Kharazan again to find the knowledge to aid us, and then he leaves again. But it's hard to pinpoint. It's hard to say when exactly does this take place. Khadgar uses a griffin, but can use a raven form and actually states that he prefers his raven form. What's the deal? I'd say that speed is a factor. A griffin is probably faster than a raven, and perhaps he was simply tired of flapping his wings. A couple also asked why Khadgar could turn into a raven if he's not the Guardian, but that whole raven trick is not connected to the Guardian powers, it's connected to the Guardian staff. A Tish is what allows Khadgar to turn into a raven, and like I said, they've never given a proper explanation as to how he obtained the weapon. A similar thing happened to Lady Lialdrin, suddenly wielding Quel'Dalar. And the final question is, do we know the name of the Dreadlord? I wish I could tell you, but I have no idea. Those were the questions, ladies and gentlemen. Now I know that this video is a little bit nitpicky, because the overall idea behind the video is clear, right? Khadgar is tempted with the powers of the Guardian, but the lesson of old still stands.
I came to Kharazan seeking knowledge. What I found was a reminder that no single person, not even a Guardian, can stand against the Legion alone.
The hope for future generations has always resided in mortal hands.
You are Azeroth's true guardians, and the future of this world is in your hands.
As before, we must band together, united, for Azeroth. For Azeroth!
As a final note, I also want to add that after I wrote all of this up, I made the video and such, I ended up having a very lovely lore discussion on Twitter with people like Anne Stickney and a few others. They saw the Harbinger episode as well, and they didn't see the things as I saw them, which is great. Please don't take my views as set in stone. It's very likely that I'm way overthinking this. But hey, that's what I enjoy doing, so I'll pass on the discussion to you guys and girls. What did you think of the episode? Please let me know in the comments down below. And that's where I'll end the video for today. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I personally can't wait to see the next Harbinger episode, which should be about Illidan and the Demon Hunters. As always, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, and until next time, guys. See ya!